Welcome to my presentation. My name is Ndalila. The title of my presentation is Communicating Wildfire Research in Kenya. This presentation provides a summary of activities I did in January 2020 after I received a grant from Science in the pub Tasmania to give a talk to my home community about my research in Tasmania. So to give you some idea about me, I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, although I was born in Bungoma, which is to the west of Nairobi, west of Kenya, in this location highlighted in red. That's where I did my primary and high school education. And then I proceeded to the university. I had and still have a passion for conservation, and that's what informed my decision to pursue a course in Bachelor of Science in biology. So I finished my studies and I went to work for an NGO that works with environmental conservation, after which I proceeded to do a master's in Europe, in Sweden and Netherlands, to be precise. It's while I was in the Netherlands that I saw an opportunity to do a PhD in Australia, specifically in fire ecology, and I jumped at that opportunity because I really wanted to go to Australia. So you would ask me why fire ecology? Why do you think I wanted to do it? So number one is because of the situation of wildfires in Kenya, where there has been recorded anecdotal increase in the number of forest fires. And despite the increase, the capacity of the local agencies and the communities to fight these fires is still at an infancy. And the capacity here, I mean both the human capacity and also the financial resources. And you can see in the picture here, you see the firefighters using rudimentary means to put out the fire. So besides the situation of fire in Kenya, I also wanted to understand how the extreme fires produce thunderstorms, because that has been a known fact that extreme fires can produce thunderstorms. And I will explain this, how this happens. It's when there's intense fire coming from the ground, it interacts with the atmosphere to produce thunderstorms, which can produce lightning, which then can spark off new fires. But the thunderstorms also produce this very strong air mass, cool air mass that can descend to the Earth's surface and descend along with very strong winds, which can be a danger to the firefighters on the ground and also the local community. And related to that, I also wanted to understand how the climate change actually influences the dangerous weather conditions, that is increased temperature, lower humidity, and such. These are attributes related to intense fires generally. So this brings me to my PhD, and the topic of my PhD was the Denali Fire, which happened in January 2013. There were a series of fires happening around that time, and you can see these areas highlighted. The areas that look brown, those are the areas where the fires were burning. But the Denali Fire was the most significant because of its effect on the society and the environment. One of the impacts of the fire was several homes lost and near destruction of Denali town. And this image just emphasizes how the fire was severe, because it is a family around near Denali area that had to shelter under a pier because of the intense fires that were happening. So to give you some idea about the exact areas I was focusing on, one was on the fire severity. And here I used satellite technology to understand the different patterns of fire severity after the fire had occurred. Another aspect of my study was to understand the fire dynamics, fire thunderstorm dynamics that I've talked about, but then see how the thunderstorm evolved during that time and how it affected the fire on the ground in terms of the severity. And the last thing I wanted to understand what quantities of emissions were produced, and the specific focus here was on the carbon dioxide and particulate matter 2.5. So these are particles, very fine particles that are produced in a fire. So I wanted to understand the quantities of these fires, and then used Tasmania as a case study to understand how emissions and the quantities of emissions that are produced from eucalyptus, forests, and woodlands. So just to give you some idea of the major findings, because I've already finished this PhD, one of them was that the eastern part of Tasmania is more prone to fires. And these are the areas that are highlighted in red. This means that these areas have elevated values of the weather, both at the near surface and the atmosphere. So those aspects make the eastern part of the Tasmania more prone to severe fires, and then likely more prone to formation of fire thunderstorms. Another finding of my study was the Denali Fire produced substantial emissions in terms of carbon dioxide and the particulate matter that I've talked about. And it looks like these emissions can be substantial across many large fires. However, these fires are not really accounted for properly in the greenhouse gas accounting for Australia and even the state, and because there is always the assumption that the large fires are natural fires and are therefore not influenced by human activities, which is not really the case, because the Denali fire was actually caused by human activities. So I've talked about how fires happen in Tasmania, but also fires happen in Kenya. And when I received this grant, I thought I'll go to the institutions, the various institutions in Kenya, and to talk to them about the wildfires, and specifically about my research and what lessons Kenyans can learn from the Australian fires. I remember this is the time when there were very severe fires happening between 2019 and 2020, what they call the Black Summer fires. So this was also an opportunity to share my knowledge and the skills to the Kenyan communities, for them to understand the situation that happens it's not just that the situation that happens in Australia and other developed countries. These problems also happen in Kenya, and we should not ignore them. So as part of the outreach, I conducted 2 talks at 2 different campuses of the University of Nairobi. So this is the first day of the talk, and the lower photo shows the second day of the talk. And again, the topic was about my PhD, because the idea of the grant was to share my studies to the community, for them to understand what I'm doing. So the impact of these 2 presentations was the need for Kenyans and the policymakers and the large agencies to prepare adequately for fire, because we are not really prepared. And also there's need for future collaborations with other agencies so that we can enhance the capacity of Kenyan agencies and communities in fire preparedness. So I also took this chance, besides talking to high school students about fires, I also took that chance to encourage them about the need for them to pursue further studies, and especially to get opportunities abroad to do their postgraduates. And the motivation for me to talk to the female students specifically was because there have been fewer women in the sciences courses, and because of that, because of many reasons, including cultural and one of them is the maternal responsibility, where a woman generally will tend to stay at home and take care of the family, and then that delays their career advancement. So because of that, there have been fewer women role models, and majority of the ones who are being highlighted in the media are the social media people who are not really like the best role models for these young girls. So that talk was just to encourage them to do courses in STEM, and also for them to pursue courses abroad, for them to have a better understanding of other people's cultures. So during that talk to the high school students, I also took advantage of that to also talk to them about their fire safety. I'm not really an expert in fire safety, I will not really lie, but it was just an idea to inform them about the need to be aware about the fires, because there has been increasing cases of dome fires in Kenya, and some of which have sadly led to loss of life. So with that in mind, I approached the Tasmania Fire Service, and I talked to them about this grant that I've received from the SANS in the pub Tasmania, and I wanted to go to talk to students in Kenya, but then I also wanted to be practical and share with them some of the tools and things that they can use to improve their fire safety. So someone called Chris Toms and Barbara Sanders were generous enough to provide me a number of smoke alarms and fire safety alarms, fire safety manuals. Sorry, I wasn't able to bring all those because of the flight restrictions. I couldn't carry many, but whatever I was able to carry, 15 of them I donated to that school. The 15 smoke alarms and the fire safety manual, so that the students can feel safe when they're asleep at night, because most of these fires usually happen in the dormitories. So besides having a talk, giving a talk to the universities, and also to these young girls who some of them have actually been rescued from female genital mutilation, also called female circumcision, I also wanted to do some outreach and fire awareness to a school where my son used to study. He left the school, but at that time he was a student. So I went and talked to the principal, and I talked to them about the need for them to be more aware about wildfires in schools. And I also shared with them some of the fire safety manuals, the ones these kids are carrying, so that they can use them to color the different things about fire, and also learn in the process, because the books were very useful. And they took it really positively. They were really happy about it, and I haven't talked to them, but I hope that they're still using the smoke alarms and the coloring books. Yeah. So to summarize this whole presentation is that the talks that I did were successful, and luckily these things were happening just before COVID, because a month later or 2 months later, then the world was under lockdown, so things were a bit difficult, but I'm happy that these talks were successful. Yeah. And I was able to share the knowledge that I heard about the wildfires, and also the lessons that Kenyans can learn from the fires, and also the lessons Kenyan can learn from the Australian fires, for them to be better prepared for the fires in future. And also there was a need to improve fire preparedness in Kenya, because what we see is there was a lack in the knowledge about fires, both from them. Actually, the knowledge was not really lacking, but it was insufficient. So, and now I'm currently doing a project in one of the important water towers, also called water catchment areas, to understand fire preparedness, and also to improve the community preparedness for the future fires. I would like to thank many people, starting with my family, the Tasmania Fire Service, the SANS in the pub, Tasmania, for providing funding, my supervisors, and the institutions below for the funding. Thank you for your time.